The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the bonus show. And you know what, Pat? I'm going to change my mind. I'm actually going to do the website thing at the end of the bonus show. So people will have to wait till the end to hear me talk about that.
Audible.
Calling an audible at the last second, yeah. So listen, next week we are going to, is it next week? I think next week we're going to do, or maybe the week after, we're going to do an interview related to this Supreme Court case regarding the gay wedding cakes that's going on, which has become a big thing. It's going to be
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, yeah. So the case has started, and this is the case that relates to the Colorado baker who refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. In fact, it was a lesbian couple, I believe, not a gay couple. And the argument from the baker is that it is their free speech right to refuse to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. Now, the counter to that is that in Colorado, it is a protected class, that sexual orientation is a protected class against non-service discrimination. In other words, when you put up a sign that says, we can refuse to serve people for any reason, that's not technically true because there are protected classes. You can't refuse to serve people at your business if you've chosen to have a business, which you're not forced to do. It's your choice, based on gender, based on race, based on national origin.
Yeah,
there's a number of other protected classes.
And I mean, this isn't when we're talking about like no shirt, no shoes, no service.
No,
right?
no.
I mean, you have to fit one of these protected classes.
That's exactly right. And in Colorado, sexual orientation is a protected class. So the argument is, was it an expression of free speech connected to maybe religious beliefs, the refusal to bake a lesbian wedding cake, or was it a violation of a non-discrimination order based on the potential customer's membership in a protected sexual orientation identity? And that is what the battle is ultimately going to hinge on. Now, there were a number of justices that were described as exhibiting skeptical questioning of why baking cakes is free speech. In other words, if you're baking a cake for a lesbian couple, it's not speech in favor of or against homosexuality. You're just baking a cake if you believe that line of questioning to be true. And I have no idea where this is ultimately going to shake out. Of course, my belief is that your free speech rights are not being limited if you're not allowed to discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation. That's my view, but we'll see what the court ultimately determines.
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that the court will side with the lesbian couple here.
You do think so?
But yeah, right, because Anthony Kennedy, who was the deciding vote for same-sex marriage legalization across the whole country, was one of the most critical against the religious organization or whatever, religious freedom supporters.
Was that the Hobby Lobby
cake
case?
Baker. No. I'm talking about this one now.
Oh, okay.
So you'd have to imagine that maybe he would vote the same way.
Oh,
right?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That may well be. That may well be. This is going to be the problem with this case. Well, it's not a problem if it goes the way I want it to go. But the issue with this case is that it may well serve as precedent for a number of other legal challenges in different states that have these that have sexual orientation as a protected class. So I actually do think that this case is a pretty big deal, and I'm going to be following it very, very closely.
Yeah, I mean, what if we're talking about a state that doesn't have sexual orientation as a protected class?
Whole
like, we're not talking about Colorado. We're saying, maybe Minnesota if they don't have one.
Yeah,
or
I don't
Idaho.
know which ones do.
Yeah.
The other issue around this, and it's not a directly related issue, but it is an important issue, is that you can still be fired for your perceived or actual, right? That's a key thing, perceived or actual sexual orientation in some stunning number of states around the country. They're slightly less than or more than 50%. And so this is why we sometimes report on issues with LGBT discrimination in different parts of the world, and there are horrible things going on. But this has not been resolved in the United States merely because of the Supreme Court decision saying you have to allow any couple to get married regardless of their gender. So this connects for me. This decision will connect significantly also to the reality that you can be fired for being gay or for being believed to be gay in a lot of this country.
And with this issue, I think a lot of people just ask, why doesn't the couple just go to another bakery?
Not the issue.
Right. Well, but even just to explore that, I mean, what if there's no other bakery in town? What if you have to travel super far to get your cake, right? And what if it's something that's not as frivolous as just having a wedding cake? What if it's an essential service? That's why the Civil Rights Act was passed in the 60s with regards to race.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same logic here that applies.
Now, I think that sometimes an example that's given online is, what if a doctor refused to treat a patient in an emergency room because of their perceived or actual sexual orientation? My understanding is that the medical treatment one would not apply because hospitals, if I understand correctly, they just have to treat whoever comes
Yeah.
in, period, combined with the Hippocratic Oath. So I don't know that that's the right example, but there's probably something in between, as Pat is suggesting, cake baking and life-saving medical interventions. That would be a good example for
What
this.
about this like counter argument that you're somehow enslaving the baker by
Oh, yeah, that's
forcing
insane.
them to make a cake, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. They don't have to be a baker if they don't want to.
Yeah, you're
And you're gonna pay for it.
you're forcing them to make that specific cake, I guess. Didn't Rand Paul once make an argument that single-payer healthcare enslaves doctors?
Yeah, which, undermines the point that doctors are not only paid, but paid quite well, and they
Yes.
don't have to be doctors if they don't want to. Not the same case in slavery, right?
A little bit different. A
Yeah.
little bit different. So we will get a full analysis of where this case is, not next week, but the week after. And this has been, I don't remember when this even started. Like, hasn't it been years,
years,
that
yeah.
this has been working its way up to and eventually to the Supreme Court as it is now? So we'll continue covering that story. There's a small Mexican village that is having a real problem. It borders a lake, and there are a ton of children that are getting sick very close to the lake, and sort of all the standard possible culprits are being examined. Is it that there is agricultural and industrial pollution that's causing a problem here? Is there some kind of dumping that's going on here? This is all happening in the western state of Jalisco. And environmental experts are pointing to water and air pollution, but the government is denying the entire thing. And I don't think that we should be hugely shocked by that. That's not unique to Mexico, but the University of Guadalajara has been investigating what's been going on by this lake, Lake Chapala. And they've confirmed what locals have known for years, which is that there are major pollution problems. Chronic kidney disease is reaching epidemic levels, and it's hitting children the hardest. And of course, when you understand the function of the kidneys and you imagine what it might be that is being absorbed into the body from the pollution that is taking place in and around this lake, and you understand that child kidneys, by virtue of being smaller, are less able to filter toxins, you start to understand what it is that might be going on here. And it's, when you read the stories of these kids, I mean, it's just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
I mean, there are some deformities. Sometimes the children can't mature at the same rate as even their classmates, which creates all sort of problems for them.
Yeah.
And I guess what happens is sometimes there's arsenic in the water there, and when it evaporates, it becomes part of the air. So that can easily cause kidney problems, can cause like heart defects, even birth defects. It's no bueno.
No, you can end up, it ends up entering your body in a number of different forms, essentially, evaporative, through water, etc. What can we really say? It's like the whole world is having a real problem with what I consider to be an issue of under-regulation. I know that the free market right and the libertarians sometimes like to say, well, we should get rid of all regulation because the businesses would have an incentive to police themselves. Take this lake as an example. It's probably not just one business whose industrial runoff is causing this problem. So there's not going to be one business that's going to be mostly damaged by the negative PR around this, if it's even determined what business it is, what industry it is. So where is the incentive for them to self-police and to ensure that their chemicals are not leaking into this lake? There is none.
Oh, but David, if you find out that you live near a polluted lake, you can just upend your entire family and move somewhere else.
Oh, right, yeah, because you can, of course, afford to, and it's reasonable to expect that people would do that. That non-regulation argument, every time I hear a story like this, it's stunning to me that people even make that argument, because it's fine to have the general view that you don't think there should be regulation or that it's immoral, but you can't really defend regulation as being impotent. We know that properly enforced regulation actually does work.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one layer of injustice when we talk about like who's paying the tax burden, right? Or
Sure.
who gets the benefits, who doesn't get the benefits.
Yep.
When we talk about actual people's life being at stake here because of pollution and health concerns, that's just a whole nother layer of social injustice.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. Okay, listen, I've got to talk to you about something related to the website, the David Pakman website, davidpakman.com. We recently, as you might know, moved the website from one web host to another, and that has significantly sped up the performance of the website, and that's going really, really well. But in dealing with that, I reconnected with our web developer who developed our website initially, and she said, there are some infrastructure changes that I could make. And in doing so, we would have to sort of rebuild some of the elements of the website. Now, the simplest thing would be to have her rebuild the website exactly the same way that it is now. So you wouldn't even notice that on the back end, some of the things have been changed. But what I said to our web developer was, well, let me go to our audience. If you have to recode elements of this no matter what, I might as well get suggestions about what our audience might want changed with the website. So this is the opportunity. If there are elements of the website either related to the membership content or not, right? It could really relate to anything on the website. This is a really good time to let me know, because what my goal is that I would assemble all of these ideas and suggestions from the audience, talk through with our developer what she thinks is high priority, low priority, what could be more or less expensive to do. And if we're going to do sort of a refresh of the website, of the back end, I'm open to adding features, changing things, taking away.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like anything that you would want changed on the website or added. This is a great opportunity.
Curious to see how the audience will decide this, right? Because,
Yes.
I mean, as progressives, we're supposed to be open to change.
Absolutely.
Right? But if there are significant problems, or if there aren't significant problems, maybe we'll keep it the same.
What's funny is, I mean, I'm kind of joking here, but every time we make even the most minor change to the website, we always have angry people who are just furious that we're changing stuff. People don't like change. Even self-described progressives often don't like change.
Why is the poll on the right side of the page instead
Instead
of
of the left side of the page, yeah. So I don't even want to give ideas for the types of things I might be thinking of, because I don't want to like push pull you into emailing me about certain things. Like, I know from a couple people that have contacted me some of the top things that people complain about on the website, but I'm not going to mention them. It's a total blank slate, tabula rasa.
Okay. So
Anything that you want.
You're going to be the unbiased arbiter.
Yes, indeed.
Can I try to sway the audience one way or another?
No, don't. I mean, by the way, Pat earlier said he had no ideas for any changes, so I don't want him to come up with something bogus now. So anyway, email me. Email me, because this is a great opportunity. We want to continue improving the website. And yeah, that's that. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.